Final Fantasy Tactics has an amazing cast of memorable characters, although admittedly I don't remember half their names. But is there anyone so universally hated as this man? I don't know. Did Sephiroth do this? So how is it with characters like Dycedarg and Marquis Elmdor and Wiegraf that this weeb is potentially the most despised character in this game? Yeah, that could be it. But how did we get here? Let's take a deeper look. Argath Adolphus, a 16-year-old youth and with all the arrogance that comes with it. A snootish squire of noble blood, come from a noble house cast into disrepute. Chanced upon by Ramza Beoulve and Delita Heiral, he was rescued following the massacre of his men and the capture of his lord. And at first, our most grateful squire appears to be a kindred soul. His men killed, his lord captured, he besieges Ramza's aid to rescue the Marquis Elmdor. We are at first sympathetic to this man. How can he be denied? And when the party returns to the Beoulve mansion, Argath pleads his case before the Lord Dycedarg, who somehow the fanbase still likes more than Argath. Here we see the threads of his arrogant and presumptuous nature. He begs, nearly demands, of Dycedarg to lend him 100 men to lead into battle and rescue the Marquis Elmdor, with no certainty of where his lord is or how many men they face, all in an effort to restore his lost honor. Dycedarg rightfully shoots him down, albeit for his own nefarious reasons. Thereafter we see the three despondent squires treading the mansion grounds, and Argath gives us his sad sob story. His grandfather was one of many captured during the 50 Years' War. While in captivity, he betrayed a close friend and was granted his freedom for it. The tale returned home, but the man did not, for the captive had been betrayed himself. House Adolphus was cast into the muck, where Argath would later rightfully follow. And interestingly, Argath became something else. Not quite a commoner, but rather a dishonored noble. And it is this sting to his honor, to his name, that fuels his hatred. And isn't that a sympathetic tale? This man, if you can even call him that, is disgraced by the ignoble actions of his grandfather, not anything he himself has done. Well, not yet, that is. We'll get there. Cannot most of us relate? To feel burdened with the blame of another's actions? It is at this point that Ramza's brother Zalbag informs the trio of a corpse brigade spy gone missing in the merchant city of Dordor, where they very well could discover information about Lord Elmdor. And after hearing Argath's sad misfortune, his devotion to his lord and his honor, how could we refuse him? What's more, here now is a chance for the three young men to prove themselves, to be recognized as men, not children, to demonstrate their worth, accomplish heroic deeds, to become saviors. It's in the merchant city of Dordor that we first glimpse Argath's true nature, and the honeymoon of the relationship begins to wither. The rose glasses sliding down our nose. Ramza and Delita stand aside, watching as Argath interrogates a corpse brigade prisoner. He's furious, understandably so. His lord kidnapped, his comrades killed. We want to know too. We want to free this man Elmdor, to be heroes, uncover this plot of intrigue. Yet, as Argath's anger grows, so too does our disquietude. Delita stands with arms folded in witness of Argath's wrath upon the common folk. A criminal, yes, but also a survivor. A man who had fought for his country and was paid with pity thanks rather than coin. It is Ramza, not Delita, that steps in and puts an end to this. A momentary reminder that Delita is well aware of his station in this pecking order. And I will confidently say that it is this moment and it's this monologue that transforms Argath from a simpering sycophant to a repulsive brute. Quote, "You will die, you will be hunted down to the last, and slaughtered like the swine you are. For such is bigotry's reward. But you, pig, you are a lucky one. Tell us what we wish to know, that you may yet keep your bacon." This here for me is where my distaste for the kidnappers started shifting to abhorrence for this man. And the prisoner reminds us, you nobles are all the same. You think every man born outside castle's walls less than human. We fought for this kingdom at the peril of our lives. Yet the moment the war was ended, you turned us out into the streets. What do you think makes you so special? Birth? Blood? What difference does that make? When the prisoner reveals the corpse brigade's whereabouts, it's Ramza that Argath turns to for information, for direction. A boy of the most prestigious house in Ivalice, rather than the commoner more familiar with this land. And this is the heart of the conflict, and ultimately what makes Argath a foil to both Ramza and Delita. Ramza, a younger and possibly bastard son of House Beoulve, and Delita, a commoner who along with his sister were adopted by Ramza's father, Barbanath Beoulve. Delita is not a noble, and Argath is quick to understand this. He is rather dismissive of Delita upon meeting him, perhaps accepting him as a vassal, and tolerates his continued presence at the behest of Ramza. For now. Delita would have liked this video because I too am an ordinary common folk. So if you want to see more videos like this, be a Delita and not an Argath. They set forth to raid one of the bandits' dens, where they come upon Maluda Fale, a retired soldier of the 50 Years' War and sister to Wiegraf. She is a somewhat insignificant character of significant relevance. She joined her brother to form a resistance against the aristocracy's mistreatment, to fight for justice of the common folk. And here Maluda reiterates the crux of the story. Quote, "We are not chattel, we are humans, no less than you." And Argath answers, "You, no less human than we? Ha! Now there's a beastly thought. You've been less than we from the moment your base-born father fell upon your mother in whatever gutter you saw you sired. You've been chattel since you came into this world drenched in common blood." And when a defeated and injured Maluda stands before them, Argath urges the player, "Do it, Ramza. She fights as a corpse. Let her become one for true." But we, like Ramza, cannot do it. And here Delita speaks and the conflict arises. This woman is no more chattel than you or I. And Argath is not surprised. You would turn against our cause, Delita? I ought to have expected as much. Defeated, Maluda is permitted to limp away, and Ramza questions, "Delita, what have we done?" And while Delita can only shake his head, Argath is quite vocal. "A pox on your pity indeed." And here at last, the illusion is shattered. Argath recognizes a similarity between Delita and himself. Knowing that the two are almost on equal footing is an uncomfortable position for the hubristic bootlicker. Ramza represents to Argath all that Argath feels that a noble should be, promising squire of a distinguished house, boasting of wealth and heroics, venerated by his peers. The relationship between Elmdor and Argath is never really expanded upon, but it can be presumed that Argath latched on to him as he did Ramza, in an attempt to renew his house's honor and station. What began as an adventure of heroics among friends, ended in discord and tragedy, and there is no honor to be found here. The enmity comes to a crescendo upon returning to the Beoulve mansion, where it's discovered that Delita's little sister Tetra having been mistaken for a noble, has been kidnapped by the Corpse Brigade. A final push against the bandits is to commence, and while Dycedarg prays things up with assurances of Tetra's safety, it is Argath that speaks the truth. A hard truth that widens the rift between our heroes. That Dycedarg will not in fact risk the opportunity to rout the Corpse Brigade for the safety of one common-born maid. It is Argath's harsh words that disillusion the idea that character is more valued than class. For Ramza, and for the player. Delita may be Ramza's friend, but he is not Ramza's equal. Unwilling, or perhaps unable, to withstand the bitterness of this truth, Ramza commands that Argath leave. This is the first time we the player see Ramza flexing his authoritative power as an exalted noble. Unfortunately, however, Ramza is an ignorant boy who underestimates the importance of honor and loyalty to those in Ivalice. Upon reaching Ziegden Fortress in a bid to save Delita's sister, we are unexpectedly confronted by Argath, and along with him, Ramza's brother Zalbag. I guess the lickspittle has found a new pair of boots to clean. Grigorith holds Tetra hostage, poised on the bridge, seeking clemency. And with no hesitancy, Zalbag commands Argath to shoot. This is perhaps one of the most remembered heartbreaking tragedies of this game. The cruel death of Tetra, a young girl caught up in the conflicts and politics of Ivalice. Because as it so turns out, a commoner is indistinguishable from a noble. This is the culminating moment where the fantasy truly ends, and the nightmarish reality begins. This event is what turns Delita from a peasant, passively accepting the cruel deprecation of nobility in Ivalice, into the calculating knight that later would endeavor to become king. There are perhaps few battles more satisfying to win in this game besides this one. Ahem. When queried why he would shoot Tetra, Argath answers simply, "Your lord brother's orders, Ramza. What else?" He goes on to say, "They are of lesser birth, and so meant to play lesser roles in life. That commoner and his sister ought never have been here at all." Reminding the player of the insignificance of ordinary people in a vast world of politicians, wealth, and war. No mere commoner can leave his mark on history, Argath declares. A fear many of us have, to be forgotten, to leave no legacy, no remembrance that we ever lived. Even his final words grind this point home, not at the hands of milksop rabble. A reminder, again, we are nothing to him. People scattered and crushed beneath the aristocracy's shoe. At last we stamped that cruel, sniveling bastard's face into the snow. But it's not enough. Not for Ramza, not for Delita, and not for us. Argath is granted revival by the Lucavi in exchange for his soul. His body is a twisted thing, visibly rotting, a reflection of his character. He would accept damnation so he might exact revenge, regain some personal honor. But at this point, the player just gets to eagerly bury this man again, with no mercy, no kindness, and no lingering doubt. So why is Argath the most hated villain in this game? It's because of what he represents. Argath iterates the uncomfortable truth of the disparity between Ramza and Delita, of nobility and common folk, of the rich and the ordinary, in Ivalice and in our own world. And without him, without his degradation, his vileness, his disregard for human life, Delita would not have walked the path to become king and unite Iblis in peace. Eventually. And Ramza would not have abandoned the nobility, his family, his honor, only to later become the fated hero to save Iblis from utter destruction. While Argath may have been a weak man of no real standing, he nevertheless served a very important purpose. Psst, I hope the remake lets us kill him a third time.